Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm bringing an ultimate glass cannon Shadow PALKIA to the Great League. While this is never a Pokemon you should use if you care about your ELO whatsoever, against all odds with very careful gameplay and strong teammates, I was able to climb about 100 ELO to 3350 with the team. And while this is not a climbing team by any means, the damage output Shadow PALKIA produces is incredible, and these are some very fun sets. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go Shadow PALKIA. We're off to a dream start in game number 1, Shadow PALKIA against Talonflame. Opponent save switches Shadow Primeape, and just like that, with a couple Dragon Breaths, this Shadow Primeape is already at half HP. I'm able to get a catch and a sneak as I send in the Toxapex. My opponent is now going to fire off the boosted close combat, and that will inflict quite a lot of damage. My opponent now going to send out more Peko. Unfortunately, they do actually get the one-turn bring-in, so they don't get a Thundershock sneak that they should. So I'm actually going to wait 2 turns, so that way my opponent does actually get the Thundershock back, so now we're back on even footing. Energy Advantage Morpeko is a terrifying Pokemon to deal with. I send in Dugong, but the one thing that can help you fight back against Morpeko is its predictability. If you shield the electric move, the next move it's going to throw is going to be a dark move, and that will only hit for neutral against Dugong. Now it's going to be a debuff dark move at that, and I can just let this go and focus on winning the game with Palkia. Switch timer's up, in comes Palkia. I do need to shield a boosted Psychic Fangs, as that would easily KO the Glassy Palkia. Palkia is going to Dragon Breath down Morpeko, and the opponent is going to concede the match. Moving to the next match, Shadow PALKIA versus Diggersby. Unless Diggersby double Fire Punch baits in the 2s, this is a win for Palkia. And considering that getting Scorching Sands debuffs is very tempting, Diggersby not particularly likely to go for a bait. So I'm going to shield up the first move. It is going to be the Scorching Sands, and that is very good for me. I'm farming up a ton with the Palkia. I go for the Aqua Tail, but my opponent with a well-timed switch out to catch and sneak onto Jumpluff. But bad news for the Jumpluff is I have the tech for Jumpluff in the back. I'm going to bank energy and send in Toxapex. I could bring in Dugong, as Dugong would hit for double super effective damage, but I'd be taking super effective damage in return. So if I'm going to rebank energy on my Palkia, I'm going to want to bring in Toxapex. Additionally, this means that Toxapex is not going to have to worry about facing Diggersby, or if it does, I'm going to have 100 energy to do so, as I'm just going to fully farm them down. Switch timer's up, opponent gets to send back in the Diggersby. Diggersby will be hit with the Brine. They're at the move, so I may as well switch out and catch onto the Dugong. Now I have energy stored everywhere. They do actually get the Scorching Sands debuff, which means they're able to hang on. 3 Ice Shards, not quite enough to KO, and they will make a last-second charge move. Thankfully, it is just a Fire Punch. Fire Punch not particularly threatening, and now I have energy on all 3 Pokemon. In the back is Wigglytuff, and I'm looking to be in a terrific position here. Icy Wind is not going to do a ton of damage since I'm debuffed, but at this point, it's all about slowing down that Wigglytuff. Nice catch by my opponent onto the Jumpluff, but realistically, this game is already over, as I do have access to a Toxapex that has a tremendous amount of energy. They can go for the Swift, but I still have the shield to hide behind, so this is just a 1 game. I will be able to get to the 2 brines that I'll need. First one to get the shield, and second one will be able to pick up the KO. I believe in this match, I decided at the last second to try and undercharge, stall out the clock, and snipe with 1 Dragon Breath from the Palkia, but I decide it's not worth it. I don't want to accidentally throw the game, so I'm just going to take the win. Shadow PALKIA is staring down an Ariados in the next match. The first time I saw this lead, I tried no-shielding a lunge, and it basically one-shot because Shadow PALKIA is super frail. So, going forward, I learned that Shadow PALKIA can actually win the 2-shield, which is very, very nice. As now, I'm able to control alignment in this match. Aqua Tail is going to be shielded. My opponent will be able to grab my final shield, but I'm okay with this. I'm going to exit with alignment, and the Dugong Toxapex score is amazing when it does have switch advantage. My opponent, they're thinking about it. They're going to send out a Azumarill. I'm double debuffed. My energy is useless here, so I'm going to farm up just shy of 100 energy and switch into the Dugong. Now, this is a non-linear playstyle. I could have stayed in, thrown a bunch of moves that just did no damage, and put Toxapex on the Azumarill, but I do really feel that in a 50-second switch timer meta, playing in a non-linear fashion will oftentimes be very rewarded, because even if my opponent stays in here, despite the fact that I icy winded them and KOs the Dugong, even if they have something that's bad for the Toxapex in the back, I have so much energy on the Palkia, and I've undone the 2 lunge debuffs by switching out, that I should still be in a winning position. The threat of another drill run is going to force the Azumarill to throw their energy as well. So Play Rough will come through, knock me out, I bring in Toxapex. As it turns out, it's actually not a counter to Toxapex in the back, so once the Ariados was out of the way, Toxapex was free into their back line, and now I get to go for the Sludge Wave. And if they shield it, I have a Shadow Draco Meteor on Palkia stored and ready to go. There's the shield and the combo play. Fun fact, this does 164.5% damage to a Shadow for Alligator. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Nightmare lead in the next match, Shadow Palkia versus Azumarill. I'm going to stay in, try and catch a Play Rough, but my opponent doesn't even build up to it, and I guess that makes sense, because even an Ice Beam neutrally does a huge amount of damage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bank double Aqua Tail, and then safe switch into the Dugong. Not getting a catch out of this matchup isn't great, but the fact that the Azumarill is staying in to throw energy is honestly very good news for me. I would much rather have the Azumarill throw energy here than obviously throwing energy at the Palkia. So taking a move on the Palkia isn't great, definitely puts me on the back foot in this game. And they are now going to send in Corsola. Corsola is a problem for this backline. Shadow Palkia does actually win the ones versus Corsola, which is something that very much surprised me. I have to hope that my Dugong can hang on here. Power Jam, it's debuffed, it does not KO, and now I get to land the Drill Run. Drill Run does do slightly more damage, so they're not going to be 2 stages debuffed, but they're a little bit lower. Corsola going to fire off a Nightshade, and I'm more than happy to let the first move through here, and then I'm going to look to farm up quite a bit of energy. Firing off this Brine. Brine should be enough to deliver a knockout onto Corsola. Corsola actually does end up committing the shield. So that does make me think that my Toxapex should have value in the endgame, because that's a bit of a surprising shield to me. I'm going to try for a farm down, but I realize it's not going to happen, so I will overfarm to the max and then go for the Brine right before they make their next move. Brine will pick up the KO. In the back, it's going to be for Alligator. And this is a very interesting moment in the game. If they shield, I could combo, but I'm going to overfarm here. Opponent predicts the combo. They switch into the Azumarill to try and catch the Draco Meteor Snipe from Palkia, but this time I didn't go for it. Instead, I stay in, the opponent overpredicts, and by doing so, I'm now completely in the driver's seat. Azumarill makes a last-second charge attack. I'm going to get to send in Palkia, Dragon Breath down in Azumarill. There's a Draco Meteor waiting for the Shadow for Alligator, and the opponent will concede the match. Oh my goodness, we have another Azumarill lead in the next match. Back-to-back Azu leads. This time I'm going to throw 14 Dragon Breath, switch, catch the Ice Beam onto Dugong where it's double resisted, and sneak a free Ice Shard. Out comes a Shadow Gallade, and that's not what I was expecting to see at all. Close combat would one-shot here, so I will commit the shield, and I get baited with a Leaf Blade. That is absolutely terrible, as now my opponent is not 2 stages debuffed on their defense. They are 1 stage debuffed on their attack, but even so, I think my Dugong has taken enough damage that I'm not going to be able to hang on. So I wasn't able to generate an advantage out of the mid game. The good thing I have going for me is my opponent's Azumarill is dry, and I have even shields and a big energy head start on Palkia. So I'm going to tank energy, and in the back, they have Superior. So many teams ABA weak to Toxapex for no reason. I am going to go for a Brine bait. That bait is successful, and now can I get to the Sludge Wave? I think since they can make it to a Frenzy Plant plus an Aerial Ace, I thought it was more likely they would go for the Aerial Ace first, so I no shield. They end up going for the Frenzy Plant, and now this is the Aerial Ace, but Toxapex hangs on. I have a very high ranked Toxapex. We survive. Sludge Wave KOs. In comes Palkia, and now Palkia is staring down nearly a full health Azumarill. But I have an energy lead, I have a shield advantage, let's let Shadow Palkia get to work. Shadow Palkia is going to have to shield everything here, as even an Ice Beam would do monster damage. I'm farming up, and I am at back-to-back Aqua Tails. I'm going to try and maximize the Dragon Breath damage onto the Azumarill here. I'm going to throw the Aqua Tail on the CMP Tide to their next move. Will this be enough to KO? Aqua Tail does not, but this is one Poison Jab range, which means this is a guaranteed win. Ice Beam KOs the Palkia, but Poison Jab is a 2-turn move. Bubble is a 3-turn move, so our move goes first, and we get the win. We are now staring down our third Azumarill lead in a row. I'm going to try and go for the Ice Beam catch. This opponent not going to fall for it, and out comes Annihilate. Annihilate will be instantly met with the Icy Wind. Opponent is going to have to go for a close combat if they want to win the zeros, and they throw, I believe, on 7 here, which is not enough for the CC. Rage Fist does add up a little bit, but not enough for my opponent to get a farm down, so I'm actually going to force a shield out of this mid game. That's quite nice, and now I can just bring in the Toxapex. Opponent throws instantly, and I'm happy to tank whatever they throw. It looks like they went for the blind Ice Punch, expecting the Palkia to be brought in there, as Ice Punch does do more than Rage Fist, but now I'm in a pretty nice position where I don't take a lot of damage on the Toxapex. Toxapex gets a big farm, and in the back, it is superior. Oh my goodness. A lot of teams ABA weak to Toxapex. This honestly was a pretty bad bait by me. My opponent ends up shielding, but up that much energy, I don't have to bait to win the game. Now, I get to connect with a Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave KOs with 2 shields and a Toxapex. This game has concluded. Shadow Palkia versus Jumpluff. Palkia having a bit of a tough go of it on the lead at the moment, but we have won 3 games in a row. My opponent is going to send out more Pekko as a response to my Dugong safe switch. Icy Wind is going to be shielded, and here I do make a misplay. I should shield the first move here, because obviously Electric type Aura Wheel going to do a lot more damage than Dark type Aura Wheel, and I believe I could have actually forced the final shield from my opponent. And the 1-0s is looking quite a bit better than the 2-1s. Here I'm able to successfully call a Psychic Fang's bait, which is massive, but they make it to another move, and that is not great for me, as I am going to be forced to give up that shield. I'm very close to a Draco Meteor, but I can't quite get there. In comes the Toxapex. It's Quagsire in the back, and you know what? We can't win them all. That's just hard counter, so I will resign. We are back to good leads in the next match, Shadow Palkia versus Feraligatr. I'm very surprised to see the regular Feraligatr. The Shadow generally outperforms currently, and we have had a few rocket events since Feraligatr has gotten good. Normally, versus the Shadow, I can just one-shield farm down as the Palkia, but versus the regular, since it's slightly bulkier, I will need to fire off an Aqua Tail here, as they could make it to another Hydro. Now, you might be wondering, why am I shielding double resisted moves? Because Shadow Palkia is so frail that Hydro Cannon will actually KO from there. Out comes Malamar, and this is actually concerning. Malamar does well into my backline. I'm able to grab a shield with an Aqua Tail, and then I send in Toxapex. Psywave hits for super effective damage, but Malamar is only taking neutral damage from the charge attack, so that's why I have to bring this in. Additionally, because with a Malamar safe switch, I'm expecting their third is going to be Diggersby, and in that case, I really do not want to have to deal with Toxapex aligned onto Diggersby. So they are going to play to the CMP Tire, which is a nice play from them. Sludge Wave will pick up the KO, and right on cue, there is our good friend Diggersby. Diggersby could have gone for a CMP tie, but instead they're going to go for a lot of energy. I'm going to throw Brine in here. I do make a bit of a misplay. I was hoping that I could get the Aqua Tail, but I just cannot. I should still be in a pretty okay position, but I thought I had a little bit more residual energy than I did. This Diggersby, they do have a tremendous amount of energy, firing off back-to-back Scorching Sands. I'm farming up, watching for the catch. I pause, in comes Feraligatr, and I will need to fire off the Icy Wind to pick up the knockout. I don't have to hit all the bubbles here, but they're one away from the move, so I wait the turn, switch, and get the game-winning Sack Swap catch onto the Toxapex. They're going to zero bubble it and go for a farm. They need to make it to a move, but they just don't have the energy needed. Icy Wind into the Diggersby, secures the knockout, and we're able to escape with a win. Shadow Palkia versus Shadow Marowak. This is only a win in the zeros for Palkia, and you have to throw on alignment to do so. So Aqua Tail thrown as soon as I get the move, and the opponent actually does play to the CMP tie. This could potentially work out well for me. I am going to bring in the Dugong, hopefully just fully absorb the energy that they throw here. I do get the 1-turn bring in, which is frustrating because that means when they throw, I don't sneak an Ice Shard, and I'm supposed to sneak an Ice Shard there. And that means I will take 1 additional Mud Slap that I'm not supposed to take. So now I'm very low, but I'm banking on Toxapex to sweep this game. It's Dugong, and it's going to be Shadow Drapion. I do, believe it or not, actually still have a way to win this game. It's going to be difficult, but I'm going to need to make it to double Brine, force 1 to be shielded, and then combo with a Drill Run. Brine is going to land, they're firing off another move, and I'm going to commit the shield. I do need to preserve some health here if I'm going to make this play a reality. So I go for the Brine. This will be getting them very, very low. The opponent is going to shield. I switch into the Dugong, and they read it like a book. Very nicely done by my opponent. I guess I should have gone for the play that I went for earlier. If I stayed in, forced the opponent to overpredict and blind switch out, then I would have been in a winning position. I would have had the Drill Run in the back, but I go for the snipe, and my opponent gets the call right. Tough lead in the next match, leading into a Wigglytuff. The safe switch into the Dugong, making it to the Icy Wind, but the opponent is able to make a nice catch onto their own Dugong. Icy Wind double resisted, but getting an early debuff in the Dugong mirror is honestly not the worst ever. And this appears to be a CMP tie, which means even though there was no visual shown on my screen, my opponent did actually sneak through an Ice Shard when they caught. It does make sense turn-wise, but just having no visuals for that is really not ideal. If possible, I would absolutely love to be able to flip switch here. Flipping switch would be incredible. Obviously, I would have the Wigglytuff align onto the Toxapex, but even if I can't flip switch, a shield advantage would be quite nice. My opponent can go for a Drill Run, but it will not be enough to knock out here. So the Drill Run is going to connect. I make it to my Drill Run, and it's a CMP tie. This is incredibly important. This CMP tie means they're now energy dry, I get my shield advantage, and I'm going to get a nice farm down with Shadow Palkia. So I get to send in Shadow Palkia, and I have to hope that up a shield, Toxapex can put in work. In comes Toxapex into the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff stays in to throw what could be an Icy Wind. They go for the Icy Wind. In the back is Bastiodon, and I think my opponent made a game-losing misplay by staying into Icy Wind. Icy Wind means they take less damage from Brine, but it desyncs the switch timers. And if you're not careful, desyncing the switch timers and throwing their charge attack as well is going to be the kiss of death for my opponent, because now I don't have to throw a move to burn the clock. I can just switch into the Palkia. I throw the Aqua Tail, CMP tying the Bastiodon, and this should put me back in the driver's seat of this game. They shield the Aqua Tail because it's going to do the most damage, but now they're stuck throwing their Stone Edge onto the Palkia, and they would much rather have charmed it down with the Wigglytuff. Now I have all this energy stored on the Toxapex, a shield to hide behind, and we're about to make a toxic team feel the wrath of Toxapex. Toxapex, Brine after Brine, crashing into the Bastiodon. Bastiodon can't even get a move. My goodness, is Bastiodon washed. Back in comes the Wigglytuff. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match.